In a future where Earth is devastated by war, 4 weary soldiers are stationed at Sentinel, a remote military base situated in a vast ocean that divides 2 battling continents. Although their tour of duty was supposed to end 3 months ago, they continue to wait for the relief crew, which has yet to arrive. As the weeks turn into months, paranoia begins to take hold, pushing their relationships to the brink of collapse. Welcome to the hilariously quick rapid movie recap, where time is of the essence. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and don't forget to turn on those pesky notifications. After all, who doesn't love being reminded about things? Need captions? No problem. Just give that fancy CC button a click, and you'll be reading in no time. Oh, and while you're here, don't forget to give our delightful merchandise a gander down below. Trust us, your support means the world to us, and we can't thank you enough for fueling our passion for rapid recaps. In the year 2063, Earth's deteriorating condition has caused sea levels to rise, flooding most of the planet. Now, only 2 continents remain, locked in a bitter war over scarce land and resources. Amidst the vast ocean separating these continents lies the Sentinel, a military outpost manned by a weary crew of 4 soldiers growing increasingly frustrated. Their 2-year service contract ended 3 months ago, but there's still no sign of the relief crew. Food supplies are dwindling, so one stormy night, Cassidy and Sullivan attempt to fish. Surprisingly, they have some success, filling their net with a bountiful catch. Meanwhile, their superior officer, Hendrichs, notices the storm's growing intensity and instructs Baines to secure the massive explosive guarding the Sentinel. As the storm worsens, powerful waves begin to damage the outpost pipelines. Baines races to fix them, but his hand gets stuck, leaving him struggling underwater for several minutes before finally breaking free. Outside, the waves sweep away the net full of fish, and Sullivan desperately tries to grab something, but the wind is too strong and dangerous, forcing him to retreat inside. The crew barely makes it back inside before a massive wave crashes into the structure, causing it to shake and water to pour in through every entrance. Miraculously, the Sentinel remains standing. The next morning, the group discusses rationing their remaining resources while eating a meager military breakfast. Baines is furious upon learning they lost the fish, sparking an argument with Sullivan, who retaliates by berating Baines for using kitchen parts to repair the main pipes. Hendrichs intervenes, urging them to act like adults and focus on repairs. Baines questions why they don't ask for the relief crew to hurry, but Hendrichs reminds him the telegraph is for reporting purposes only. Sullivan later sends the daily report using the telegraph, informing the base of no notable events. The base replies with the same information as the past few months, no events on their end either. Sometime later, Sullivan joins Hendrichs outside, and after joking about their air dancer, peers through binoculars to see a ship approaching. Cassidy confirms the sighting with the radar. Sullivan is excited, assuming it's the relief crew, but Hendrichs is cautious and orders Baines to fetch weapons in case it's an enemy vessel. Despite Cassidy's attempts, the ship remains unresponsive. Hendrichs sends Sullivan with a gun to intercept the ship and ensure it doesn't pose a threat. Sullivan investigates the ship, growing increasingly disturbed by what he finds: dirt-covered objects, a non-functioning radio, and untouched food in the cabinets. Hendrichs tries to reach Sullivan, who doesn't respond, leading him to believe Sullivan was attacked. Hendrichs decides to fire on the ship before it reaches the Sentinel. Asking Cassidy for one of the explosive's keys, Hendrichs reminds her that following protocol is essential. Activating the explosive, Hendrichs tries to contact Sullivan one last time. Sullivan finally responds, averting the attack. However, Hendrichs keeps both keys as punishment for Cassidy's initial hesitation. Sullivan tows the ship to the Sentinel, where Hendrichs investigates it. Meanwhile, Cassidy and Sullivan share an intimate moment, making up for the recent scare. Later, as the crew takes a quick iodine bath, Baines reports on the salvageable items from the ship, concluding it was indeed their relief crew and that the engine hasn't worked for months. Sullivan wants to notify the base, but Hendrichs forbids it until they gather more information, as the situation doesn't make sense even though it qualifies as an event. The crew grows increasingly weary of Hendrichs' behavior, particularly his possession of both keys. After the bath, Hendrichs reviews the ship's navigation history, recording the coordinates to plot their course on a map. Meanwhile, Cassidy and Sullivan discuss the world outside, which they haven't seen for 2 years. Sullivan admits to sending a message to the base behind Hendrichs' back, expecting a response the following day. The following morning, Hendrichs finds his 3 soldiers suspiciously waiting by the telegraph. Baines admits the truth, and just as Hendrichs is about to scold them, the machine receives a reply. Excitement turns to disappointment as they read the message. It's the same one Sullivan sent last night. they realize they lost contact with the base long ago, with the computer only echoing Sullivan's daily no events message. While Hendrichs works on mapping the coordinates, Baines sneaks onto the ship with a plan. One night, Sullivan catches him returning, but Baines stays tight-lipped. The two end up drinking together, with Baines sharing stories about his family back home, if it's still there. Suddenly, Baines reveals that he thinks he can fix the ship. Eager to escape, Sullivan tells Cassidy the news and asks her to leave with him to live in one of the remaining safe towns on the continent. However, Cassidy is hesitant and doubtful. The next day, Sullivan helps Baines fix the ship's engine, and they successfully complete the task. Upon emerging from the ship, they find Hendrichs waiting. He orders them to dismantle the ship to repair the Sentinel, insisting it's their duty to stay even though their contract is ended. Sullivan refuses to die like others before them, and Baines agrees. However, when Cassidy joins, she doesn't show support for their plan. Hendrichs sends the team to work on repairs, threatening them with his gun if they don't comply. Frustrated and fearful of Hendrichs' recent trigger happiness, Cassidy volunteers to talk to him. She empathizes with his loss of a previous squad, but argues that leaving doesn't equal dying, it's salvation. Meanwhile, Sullivan and Baines wonder if they'll have to confront Hendrichs for their freedom. Their conversation is interrupted when Hendrichs, swayed by Cassidy's argument, proposes a compromise. Two stay behind, and two go to report to the base. Hendrichs and Cassidy volunteer to stay, leaving Baines pleased but Sullivan heartbroken. Moments later, Sullivan speaks privately with Cassidy, attempting to persuade her to come along, either by replacing Baines or defying Hendrichs. Desperate to make her happy, he even offers to take her place or stay with her, but Cassidy snaps, saying she doesn't love him, he's been merely a human necessity. Heartbroken, Sullivan rushes out, and Cassidy breaks down in tears. That night, Sullivan and Baines focus on packing. Hendrichs hands Sullivan a letter to deliver to the base, remarking that the enemy is just like them, soldiers wanting to protect their homes. Sullivan suggests they all leave together, but Hendrichs declines, insisting someone must guard the explosive. Later, Hendrichs studies the map and relief ship coordinates, making a shocking discovery. The ship purposely steered away from the Sentinel. Suspicious, he checks on Cassidy but remains silent. The next morning, the team is alerted by an alarm signaling another ship on the radar. The men prepare to defend the Sentinel while Cassidy unsuccessfully tries to contact the ship. This time, Hendrichs refuses to send anyone and orders the team to fire, but their first shot misses. As they reload, Cassidy realizes their ship is missing, and Sullivan and Baines see it clearly once the fog lifts. They refuse to shoot again, but it's too late. Hendrichs pulls out his gun and hits Baines with it. Hendrichs had moved the ship last night, and to prove his seriousness, he shoots the air dancer. Baines refuses to destroy the ship, prompting Hendrichs to shoot his ear. Sullivan takes the cannon and destroys the ship before anyone dies. Furious, Baines tries to confront Hendrichs, but Cassidy knocks him out with a fire extinguisher. Sullivan and Cassidy lock Hendrichs in the pantry, and Cassidy retrieves both keys. An angry Baines later tries to find Hendrichs to kill him but ends up hitting Sullivan when he tries to intervene. Cassidy calms Baines with words, but he still leaves to drink alone and unpack, which brings him to tears. Later, Cassidy mentions that Hendrichs needs his iodine bath, but Baines refuses to release him and announces his resignation. Sullivan tells Cassidy their only option is to try every telegraph channel until they find a working one. Cassidy takes the opportunity to confess she didn't mean her earlier words about Sullivan. She had wanted him to leave without worrying about her, but Sullivan hesitates to accept her explanation. Later that afternoon, Sullivan brings food to Hendrichs and asks why he changed his mind about leaving. Hendrichs reveals the relief ship had arrived 3 months prior but was diverted, indicating a traitor among them wants the explosive. Sullivan doesn't believe him and leaves, locking the door again. Sullivan spends the day sending SOS messages on every channel, while Baines drinks and tries to stay occupied in his workshop, eventually losing control and destroying his creations. That evening, Cassidy shares a childhood photo with Sullivan, explaining her family was killed by the enemy when she was young. The next morning, Baines finds Cassidy asleep in the comms room. Rambling about a missing future, he attacks Cassidy as if to take advantage of her. She manages to push him away, unaware he stole the keys. Cassidy searches for Sullivan to inform him, but Baines announces over the speakers that he'll activate the explosive. Sullivan and Cassidy return to the comms room and try to calm Baines down, mentioning his family as a reason to live. Baines steps away from the controls, crying, but after Cassidy retrieves the keys, he admits he forgot the activation code's last digit. Sullivan suggests releasing Hendrichs, but Baines reveals shocking news. He tried to kill Hendrichs earlier, but found him gone, with an open window implying he took his own life. Upon checking the pantry, Cassidy and Sullivan are devastated to find Baines' story true. Overwhelmed with grief, Sullivan reads Hendrichs' letter to the base and is shocked to find he had requested to extend his command. Later, Cassidy shows Sullivan the clean workshop, indicating Baines is recovering and building again. Baines confesses his wife had been pregnant and he never met the baby. Sullivan easily forgives him for the drunken outburst. Grateful, Baines hugs Sullivan before boarding the boat to salvage items from the sea. Cassidy joins him and Sullivan gives her a gun for protection. She thanks him with a kiss. Moments later, Sullivan tries fishing again and discovers Hendrichs' body with a head wound in the net, revealing there is indeed a traitor among them. While Sullivan searches his friends' profiles for clues, Cassidy watches Baines in the boat, formulating a plan. Next, Sullivan examines Hendrichs' map and develops a theory. As a storm approaches, he inspects the beacon outside, realizing it can be removed and relocated. This suggests someone moved the beacon, luring the ship away from the Sentinel, then killed the relief team and let the ship drift away. Hours later, only Cassidy returns from the trip, claiming Baines accidentally fell and died while retrieving some plastic. Sullivan suspects she killed him and was the traitor all along, but is too afraid to confront her. The next morning, Cassidy awakens alone. Sullivan communicates with her through a walkie-talkie, accusing her of killing everyone, spying for the enemy, and seeking the explosive. Cassidy discovers the keys are missing and rushes to the comms room, where she finds Sullivan activating the explosive. Resigned to their fate, he's willing to detonate the Sentinel with them inside. At gunpoint, Cassidy tries explaining that her people are suffering and she hated lying, but Sullivan doesn't believe her and activates the explosive. Instead of detonating, the machine displays a phrase Baines often repeated, revealing that he reprogrammed the explosive to prevent its destructive use. Ultimately, Sullivan and Cassidy have a heartfelt conversation. They agree to protect the Sentinel together, no matter which side of the war arrives, and to continue surviving. Be sure to help out our dear creators and artists by watching the full cinematic masterpiece at the link in the description below. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride, and remember to smash that like button and subscribe for more rapid movie recap shenanigans.